Today we're commemorating the 97th birthday of Abdul Sattar Edhi,
Oh, wow.
a man whose legacy of compassion, I think, continues to inspire so many people.
Oh,
Even though he's no longer with us, his life and work, I think, offers some really profound lessons,
hmm.
in empathy and selfless service.
Yeah.
And we're really diving deep into Abdul Sattar Edhi, a life of service and compassion.
Oh, okay.
And Abdul Sattar Edhi, the exception today, to try to grasp the impact that he had.
Yeah, it's incredible to think about, the scale of impact that he had.
Yeah.
Starting from practically nothing and building this organization that to this day continues to provide essential services to so many people across Pakistan.
Yeah, it's a story that resonates with, I think, so many people.
Yeah.
We all have that desire, I think, to help others and make a difference.
Right.
But sometimes it feels very overwhelming. Like, where do you even begin?
Yeah.
And I think that's where Eddie's story is so powerful. Because he shows us that it's not about, these grand gestures. It's about consistent action, even in the face of, insurmountable challenges.
Right.
So he was born in 1928 in Bansfa, which was part of British India at the time.
Okay.
And his family migrated to Karachi after the partition in 1947, a period of just immense upheaval and suffering.
Oh, yeah.
I'm curious, how did these early experiences shape his worldview?
Well, it's clear that, witnessing such widespread poverty and displacement had a profound impact on him.
Yeah.
But, even before partition, his mother played a pivotal role in instilling, this deep sense of empathy in him.
Yeah, wow.
And there's this story about how she would give him 2 coins every day,
Oh.
one for himself and one to give to someone in need.
Wow.
So, just paints a really vivid picture, I think, of the values that he was raised with.
Yeah, that's a beautiful illustration of how these early influences can really shape a life's trajectory.
Absolutely.
And then his mother's illness further solidified his commitment to helping the vulnerable. So we have 80,
Right.
a young man deeply shaped by these experiences.
Yeah.
And a strong moral compass.
Yeah.
Navigating life in a newly formed Pakistan.
Right.
And he starts working first as a peddler, then as a commission agent.
Okay.
But all the while, he's observing this immense need around him.
Right.
It's not just about making a living. It's about recognizing this greater purpose, would you say?
Yeah, I think that's a key insight into his character.
Yeah.
He wasn't content just existing,
Right.
He wanted to make a tangible difference.
Yeah.
And that led him to establish his first free dispensary in Karachi in 1951.
So that dispensary was really like the humble beginning
Yeah.
of the Edhi Foundation, an organization that would eventually grow
Right.
to encompass this vast network of services.
Yeah.
But starting with a dispensary, it seems almost too simple, doesn't it?
It speaks to his belief, I think, in practicality.
Yeah.
He saw this need for basic medical care.
Yeah.
And he just addressed it directly.
Right.
He didn't wait for permission or funding from some larger institution. He took initiative.
And that independent spirit,
Yeah.
that self-reliance became like a hallmark of the Edhi Foundation.
Yeah.
So when he needed to raise funds to expand, he didn't go to the government or big organizations. He went directly to the people.
Right. It was a bold move and might seem counterintuitive.
Yeah.
But it resonated really deeply with the public. They saw his sincerity and his dedication and responded with overwhelming support.
Yeah.
And this approach, built on trust and transparency, allowed the foundation to operate freely without being beholden to external influences.
It's fascinating how he essentially turned traditional fundraising on its head.
Yeah.
He wasn't asking for charity. He was inviting people to participate in this movement built on shared values.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the most enduring lessons we can learn from Edhi.
Yeah.
It's about empowering communities to become these agents of change.
And that brings us to a pretty pivotal moment in Eddie's journey. 1957, the year he purchased his first ambulance.
So that wasn't just a vehicle.
Right.
It was the seed of what would become the world's largest volunteer ambulance network.
Wow.
And Edhi himself would drive that ambulance responding to emergencies day and night.
Wow.
Regardless of the situation.
There's a passage in Abdul Sattar Edhi, The Exception, that really struck me.
Okay.
It describes how he started with a single van in which he carried corpses no matter their level of degradation.
Wow.
It's a very stark image,
Yeah.
but it speaks volumes about his unwavering commitment to serving those who are often forgotten or ostracized.
He didn't see differences. He only saw human beings in need.
Right.
And that willingness to do what others wouldn't, to face these uncomfortable realities of suffering head on, that's what set him apart.
And from that single ambulance, a fleet grew.
Yeah.
Fueled by public donations and the tireless efforts of volunteers.
Yeah.
But Edhi's vision didn't stop there. He recognized another critical need: proper shelters for orphans and abandoned children. The 80 orphanages became safe havens where these children could find shelter education.
Right.
And perhaps most importantly, love and care.
Yeah.
It was another testament to his unwavering belief in the sanctity of human life regardless of circumstance.
Absolutely.
From those humble beginnings, a small dispensary and a single ambulance, the Edhi Foundation grew to encompass hospitals, clinics, nursing homes, and countless welfare centers all across Pakistan.
It's astounding, really, the scale of their operations. I mean, they provided free medical care, they rescued abandoned infants, trained nurses, they even buried unclaimed bodies.
Wow.
Edhi's vision touched so many facets of life in Pakistan.
When we talk about Edhi, we often focus on the practical aspects of his work, the dispensaries, the ambulances, but Abdul Sattar Edhi, the exception, really highlights the impact of his character, the way he defied expectations.
Yeah.
And that's where that phrase, but needy, comes in.
Right, yeah.
And the author uses it to show how Edhi broke down stereotypes and challenged that cynicism that can often surround certain groups.
Yeah.
All Muslims are terrorists. But Edhi,
right.
It's a powerful way of illustrating his exceptionality.
It really is.
But it's about more than just defying stereotypes, right?
Yeah.
It's about living a life of such integrity and compassion that it transcends those narrow labels.
Absolutely. And his lifestyle itself was like a testament to that integrity. Here's a man who had access to millions of dollars in donations, yet he lived incredibly modestly.
Right.
Simple clothes, small apartment, never sought any personal gain from his work.
The article mentions that he only owned 2 changes of clothes.
Oh, wow.
That's pretty remarkable when you consider the magnitude of the organization that he built.
It really underscores his selflessness, Yeah. The focus was never on personal comfort or accumulation. It was always about maximizing the resources available to help others.
Right.
And that authenticity, that alignment between his words and his actions,
Yeah.
That's what made him so compelling, I think.
Yeah, the author of The Exception describes being moved to tears upon meeting Edhi.
Yeah.
And I've heard similar stories from others who have encountered him. There was something about his presence, this kind of quiet strength that inspired both awe and respect.
Yeah, the article paints a really poignant picture of his physical appearance, too.
Yeah.
He was small and frail looking, yet his hands were strong and calloused. The hands of a man who had spent his life, working tirelessly to serve others.
It's a powerful image that encapsulates his life's work. But, this path that he chose wasn't always easy.
Right.
Edhi faced a lot of resistance from various groups, including some religious and political factions, who felt threatened by his independence and inclusivity.
Right.
And I think it's in those moments of challenge that his resilience really shines through. There's one story that I think really exemplifies this, his defiance of this political party during this really devastating Karachi monsoon.
Oh, wow.
They were attempting to suppress the true death toll.
Right.
But Edhi just refused to be silenced.
Wow.
He personally went out and collected the bodies when others were too afraid to.
That speaks to his courage
Yeah.
and this unwavering commitment to truth and accountability.
Right.
He knew the importance of bearing witness, even when it meant going against these really powerful forces.
And it's not just this instance.
Right.
There are stories about how gangs in Liari,
Yeah.
Infamous for their violence, would cease fire to allow Edhi's ambulances to pass.
Oh, wow. Imagine that.
Yeah.
Even in the midst of their own conflicts, they recognized and respected the sanctity of Edhi's mission.
Right.
It speaks volumes about the moral authority that he commanded. He transcended those divisions because his work was fundamentally about human dignity.
And as we move toward the later chapters of Edhi's life, it's clear that his legacy of service continued to unfold, leaving an indelible mark, not just on Pakistan, but on the world. And even in his final act, he embodied that spirit of giving.
That's right. Even in death, Edhi continued his legacy of service by donating his organs.
Wow.
A final act of selflessness that I think perfectly encapsulates his life's work.
His corneas were transplanted to 2 blind individuals,
Wow.
giving them the gift of sight.
Oh my gosh.
Just a beautiful reminder that even in passing, one can continue to make a difference.
And his death in 2016 sparked this huge outpouring of grief and respect.
Oh, yeah.
His funeral was attended by thousands, from government officials to everyday citizens whose lives he had touched.
I think the article describes it as one of the largest funerals in Pakistan's history.
Wow.
And, he was buried with full state honors, a true testament to his unparalleled contributions to the nation.
Yeah, it's clear that his impact transcended all social and political divides.
Absolutely. And though his physical presence is gone, his spirit, his mission lives on through the Edhi Foundation.
Right, and his son Faisal Edhi and his wife Bilquis, who sadly passed away in 2022, have worked tirelessly to ensure that legacy continues to thrive.
And the work of the Edhi Foundation continues to impact countless lives across Pakistan.
Yeah.
They operate orphanages, hospitals, clinics, ambulance services, you name it, providing a lifeline for those in need. It's incredible to think about the scope of his work.
Yeah.
And the fact that it all stems from this deeply rooted belief in serving humanity.
Yeah.
And as we've been discussing his life,
Right.
I've been thinking a lot about, how he navigated the complexities of religion and social service. He's a devout Muslim.
Yeah.
But his faith seemed to manifest in a way that transcended dogma.
Right, and the sources mention that he actually faced criticism.
Oh, wow.
From some religious groups who felt his inclusivity, contradicted their interpretations of faith.
Oh, interesting.
They questioned his commitment because he aided people of all faiths, even those considered outside the traditional fold.
And yet he never wavered in his mission,
Right.
He didn't let those criticisms deter him from extending a helping hand to anyone in need.
His actions spoke louder than any critique.
Yeah.
He was focused on alleviating suffering, period.
Yeah.
It wasn't about converting people or imposing beliefs, but about recognizing that inherent dignity in every individual.
Yeah, that gets to the heart of his humanity above all philosophy.
It does.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
A philosophy that resonates even more strongly in today's world,
Right.
which is often so divided by ideology and belief systems.
I think that's one of the most powerful takeaways from Edhi's legacy.
Yeah.
He demonstrated that compassion doesn't require conformity.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing our shared humanity, our shared vulnerability, and extending a helping hand, regardless of background.
He showed us that actions often speak louder than words.
Absolutely.
And that true service is rooted in genuine empathy, not in seeking recognition or imposing one's views on others.
And his approach was so effective because, he didn't get bogged down in these ideological debates. He saw suffering and he acted to alleviate it.
Yeah.
It's a simple yet profound concept
Yeah.
that we can all apply in our own lives.
Absolutely. Whether you're involved in social work, philanthropy, or simply striving to be a better person,
Yeah.
It's about looking beyond labels and seeing the human being in need. It's about asking, how can I help, rather than who is deserving of help.
Precisely. Edhi's life is a testament to the extraordinary impact we can have when we lead with our hearts and act with genuine compassion.
Well said. As we conclude our deep dive into the life of Abdul Sattar Edhi, I'm struck by the magnitude of his legacy.
Yeah.
And the enduring power of his simple message, humanity above all. What are some of your final takeaways for our listeners today?
I think if we were to distill Edhi's life down to its essence,
Yeah.
it would be this one person driven by genuine compassion and unwavering commitment can change the world.
Wow.
His story is a beacon of hope, demonstrating that even in the face of immense challenges, we have the power to make a difference.
And that's the most beautiful and enduring aspect of his legacy, isn't it?
It is.
It's a call to action for each of us, a reminder that we all have that potential to be a force for good in the world.
And his legacy is built not on these grand pronouncements, but on countless acts of kindness.
Yeah.
Large and small, a legacy that continues to inspire and challenge us to embrace our shared humanity
Right.
and to live lives of purpose and service.
Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey into the life and legacy of Abdul Sattar Edhi.
Appreciate it.
Until next time, keep diving deep and keep seeking those nuggets of wisdom that inspire us to be better, to do better, and to create a world where humanity above all is not just a philosophy, but a lived reality.